If you have seen those viral TikTok videos that make dump and bake recipes using canned soup, today I'm going to show you how to skip the can and make it from scratch. You've probably seen those dump and bake recipes all over TikTok that use canned condensed soup, things out of a package that are loaded with sodium and preservatives. But I'm going to show you today how you can make something very similar, just as good, even better, from scratch. So today we're going to be making chicken casserole. And it's super easy and it's from scratch. You don't have to have all those boxed and canned ingredients that are loaded with things that are not good for us. And you can actually feed your family and nourish them at the same time. The first thing we want to do is I have a bag of frozen peas and carrots. And you can use fresh vegetables if you want, but for convenience we're using a package of frozen peas and carrots. And I'm going to put them into this dish. And I have brought some water to a boil, and I'm just going to pour this boiling water over top of them. And I'm just going to let them sit here for a few minutes. I'm not trying to cook them, but I don't want them to be frozen when I add them to my casserole, because then that's going to slow down the baking time and the cooking time of the entire dish. And if I just pour that hot water over them, that'll bring them up to room temperature, maybe a little warmer, and that way they won't affect how my dish bakes. So here I have an aluminum disposable pan for easy, quick cleanup that I have oiled, and the recipe can be found in the description of this video. So we're going to need 1.5 cups of milk. Use 2% milk or whole milk. You could probably use any kind of milk you want. It might change the texture and the creaminess of the dish a little bit, so I like to use whole milk. To this 1.5 cups of whole milk, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of flour. We're just going to whisk this in, whisk that all together. And here I have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and I'm going to add that and whisk that in. And here I have 3 tablespoons of melted butter. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of this melted butter to my mix, and I'm going to reserve a tablespoon to use later on. And just stir that in. And then here I have 4 ounces of cream cheese, which I have put in the microwave and softened up, and I am going to put this into my mixture as well. And just mix that together. And the cream cheese can be in little lumps and clumpy, that's okay. It's going to melt and incorporate, so that's all right. So now I'm going to take my peas and carrots that have been sitting in the hot water, and I'm going to strain the water off of them. And we're just going to put them in our pan. How easy is that? So here we have our peas and carrots. And here we have our creamy mixture. We're just going to dump this right on top. And here I have 2 cups of cooked chicken, and you can cook some chicken breasts if you want, or if you have leftover chicken, you can use that. You could even use canned chicken in this recipe, but you'll want to shred it up into fairly small pieces and sprinkle that all over the top. And I like to mention I have my oven preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now here I have a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of paprika. And I'm just going to sprinkle this all over the top to add some flavor. And here I have a 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar cheese and about a 1/2 cup of a mix of Asiago and Parmesan cheese. You can use any kind of cheese you want. And I am just going to sprinkle this all over the top of the casserole. And here I have 1 cup of flour, and to that I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of milk and stir that together. And this is self-rising flour. And I want this batter to be fairly thin, not as thin as pancake batter, but not this thick, so I'm going to add a little bit of cold water. So just add enough water to get it to a consistency where you can pour it. Or spoon it. It doesn't necessarily have to pour. spoon or pour. I'm going to take a little poultry season and I'm going to sprinkle a little poultry seasoning into this mixture. That kind of gives it a similar flavor to what stovetop dressing or breadcrumbs would give it. Now I'm just going to kind of pour this or spoon this over top of the casserole. Just going to spread it around a little, try to get it even. It doesn't have to be even. We just want to have some everywhere that we can get it, just so each serving will have some bread topping. Now we're going to take that melted butter that we reserved and we're just going to drizzle that all over the top. Now wasn't that easy? Easy. Just look at this, how good it looks already. And we're going to put this in our 400-degree oven. I like to place these disposable pans on top of a baking sheet because it makes them easier to handle. So we're going to put this in the oven and let it bake. Our casserole has been in the oven for about 25 minutes and it is ready to come out. Just look at this beautiful casserole, and we practically made this in about 35 minutes. That's all it took from start to finish. So you can do this for dinner and have a wholesome meal to feed your family. Now we're going to let this cool down for a few minutes before we dip into it to kind of let everything cool off just a little bit. You don't want to let it get cold, but we want it to stop boiling and just let everything cool just probably for about 5 minutes, and then we'll scoop some out and have a taste. So we are ready to dish up our delicious casserole. I hope this video encourages you to know that you can cook a meal from scratch without spending all day in the kitchen and without having all those added preservatives and that enormous amount of sodium that is in the pre-boxed and pre-canned foods. You can serve this with a side salad and have a complete meal for your family. Let's give it a taste and see what it tastes like. That is so delicious. I don't know anyone who wouldn't like it, young and old alike. I certainly hope you'll give this recipe a try. Be sure and leave me a comment below and let me know how you liked it. And if you have not already done so, subscribe for more from scratch recipes to help you nourish your family and be successful in the kitchen. God bless. Bye-bye.